She was 17 years old, and her name was Aaliyah. She lived in a small rented house on the edge of the city, where the paint on the walls was peeling and the roof leaked during heavy rain. Life had never been easy for her, but she had learned very early that complaining would not change anything. What could change her life was education, and she believed that with all her heart. Aaliyah's mother worked long hours as a cleaner in offices and schools. Her father had passed away years ago, leaving behind memories and responsibilities that came too early for a child. From a young age, Aaliyah helped her mother by cooking simple meals, cleaning the house, and sometimes looking after neighbors' children for a little extra money. Even with all this, she never allowed her grades to fall. Every night, after finishing her chores, she sat by the small window in her room with a second-hand lamp and studied. Sometimes the power went out, and she continued reading using her phone's light. Her books were old, some missing pages, but her determination filled every gap. Teachers at her school often noticed her focus and discipline. They knew she was different. When the scholarship announcement came, it felt like hope had finally knocked on her door. The scholarship was offered by a prestigious private school known for producing successful graduates. Winning it meant free education, better opportunities, and a chance to break the cycle of poverty. For Aaliyah, it was not just a scholarship, it was her future. She spent weeks preparing for the interview, practicing answers in front of a cracked mirror, imagining how she would speak confidently. She chose her words carefully, not too proud, not too shy. Her mother watched her with quiet pride. Even though worry sat deep in her eyes, she knew how much was riding on this one chance. On the night before the interview, Aaliyah ironed her only formal outfit, a simple dress she had borrowed from a cousin. She placed it neatly on the chair and laid out her documents again and again, checking them as if they might disappear. Sleep came slowly. Her mind was full of dreams, walking through clean hallways, sitting in bright classrooms, and becoming someone her younger self would admire. Morning arrived too quickly. The sun had barely risen when Aaliyah woke up. Her heart was beating fast, but she felt ready. She dressed carefully, tied her hair neatly, and hugged her mother before leaving. Her mother whispered a short prayer, asking God to guide her steps and protect her path. As Aaliyah stepped outside, the air felt different, like something important was about to happen. She walked toward the bus stop, holding her folder close to her chest. Every step felt heavy with hope. She thought about all the sacrifices made to reach this day, the missed sleep, the long hours, the quiet tears she never shared. In her mind, she imagined the interview panel smiling, impressed by her honesty and dedication. She believed that if she was given just one chance, she would prove she deserved it. She did not want pity, only opportunity. As the bus approached, she checked the time on her phone. Everything was going according to plan. The interview was just an hour away, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like life was finally opening a door instead of closing one. She had no idea that within minutes, her carefully planned morning would turn into something she could never imagine. She did not know that her dream, so close she could almost touch it, was about to be tested in a way no exam or interview ever could. At that moment, all she knew was that her future felt almost within reach, and she was ready to grab it. The bus had not even arrived yet when everything changed. Aaliyah stood near the roadside, holding her folder tightly, watching the early morning traffic move slowly. The city was just waking up, shop shutters half open, people rushing to work, horns echoing softly in the distance. She checked her phone again and smiled. She was early. Then she heard it, a sharp screech of tires, followed by a loud crash that froze the air. A car coming from the opposite side lost control, hit the divider, and flipped before slamming into a streetlight. For a second, there was silence, the kind that feels heavy and wrong. Then smoke began to rise, thick and dark. People stopped walking, drivers slammed their brakes, someone shouted for help. Aaliyah's heart jumped into her throat. She could see the car clearly now, crushed metal, broken glass everywhere, and flames starting to lick the hood. Fear spread through the crowd like fire. Someone screamed that there was a child inside. The words hit Aaliyah harder than the crash itself. She looked around and saw people pulling out their phones, some calling emergency services, others stepping back, afraid to get closer. The fire was growing fast. Aaliyah took a step back too, just for a moment. Her mind raced. The interview, the time, the scholarship, everything she had worked for. She knew if she got involved, there was no going back. But then she heard a weak cry coming from inside the car, barely audible through the smoke. Her hands started shaking. She thought of her mother's prayer, she thought of all the dreams waiting for her, and she thought of the child trapped inside. Without fully deciding, her feet began moving forward. People shouted at her to stop, telling her it was too dangerous, that the car could explode. Aaliyah did not answer. She covered her mouth with her scarf and moved closer. The heat was intense, her eyes burned, and her chest felt tight. Through the shattered window, she saw him, a young boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old, strapped in his seat, unconscious, blood on his forehead. Smoke filled the car quickly, and the flames were now reaching the doors. Aaliyah tried the door handle, but it would not open. Panic rose inside her, but she forced herself to stay calm. She picked up a heavy stone from the road and smashed the window with all her strength. Glass shattered, cutting her hands, but she did not stop. She reached inside, coughing, her eyes watering, and struggled with the seatbelt. It was stuck, the heat burning her arms. For a moment, fear told her to let go and run, but something stronger pushed her forward. She pulled harder until the belt snapped free. The boy's body was heavy and limp, but she wrapped her arms around him and dragged him out through the broken window. The moment they hit the ground, the flames roared louder. People rushed forward now, helping her pull the boy farther away. Seconds later, the car exploded, sending shockwaves through the street. Aaliyah fell backward, holding the boy close, her ears ringing, her heart pounding like it would burst. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder by the second. She sat there on the ground, breathing hard, her clothes torn, her hands bleeding. Only then did the reality hit her. She looked at her phone, the screen cracked, the time flashing back at her. The interview was already starting. Ambulances arrived, police pushed the crowd back, and paramedics took the boy from her arms. One of them asked her name, another checked her injuries, but everything felt distant, like she was underwater. She watched as the boy was loaded into the ambulance, his chest rising and falling slowly. Alive, that was all that mattered in that moment. When things finally calmed down, Aaliyah stood up slowly, her legs weak, her folder lay on the ground, papers scattered, some burned at the edges. She picked them up with trembling hands, knowing deep inside that it was over. She had saved a life, but she had lost her chance, or so she believed. As she walked away from the scene, tears mixed with soot on her face. She had no idea that this morning, meant to test her future, had only just begun to change it forever. Aaliyah stood near the edge of the road as the smoke slowly faded into the morning sky. Her hands were shaking, her arms burned, and her chest hurt every time she tried to take a deep breath. The noise of sirens and voices surrounded her, but her mind felt strangely quiet, as if the world had paused for just her. A police officer gently asked her to sit down on the curb. She obeyed without speaking, staring at her injured hands. Small cuts covered her palms, and black soot stained her skin. Someone placed a light blanket over her shoulders, but she barely noticed. Her eyes kept drifting toward the ambulance where the boy had been taken. A paramedic returned and told her the boy was alive and breathing. That single sentence made something warm move through her chest. Aaliyah nodded, tears filling her eyes. She did not smile, but her shoulders relaxed for the first time since the crash. The officer asked her for details, what she saw, how she got the boy out, and if anyone helped her. Aaliyah answered quietly, her voice rough from smoke. She did not think of herself as brave, she only did what felt necessary. When they asked where she was going before the accident, she hesitated, her fingers tightened around her folder, now bent and damaged. She softly explained about the scholarship interview, about how important it was. The officer looked at her with surprise, then respect. He told her she could still try to go, but one look at the time told her the truth. The interview was long over. Even if she ran, even if she caught the fastest ride, the chance had already slipped away. For a moment, regret tried to creep into her heart. She wondered what would have happened if she had stayed back like everyone else, if she had chosen her future over a stranger. The thought scared her more than the fire ever did. She imagined that boy waking up alone in the burning car, and the regret disappeared. Some choices, she realized, shape who you are forever. After the police finished, Aaliyah slowly stood up. Her legs felt weak, but she forced herself to walk. She declined the offer to go to the hospital, saying others needed help more than she did. One of the officers insisted on calling someone for her. She gave her mother's number. When her mother answered, worry filled her voice instantly. Aaliyah tried to stay calm as she explained what happened. She said she was safe, she said she missed the interview, and finally, her voice broke. Her mother was silent for a moment, then spoke softly, telling her to come home. There was no anger, no disappointment, only concern. That kindness made the loss feel heavier. On the bus ride back, Aaliyah sat by the window, watching the city move as if nothing had changed. People laughed, argued, rushed to work, life continued, even when yours felt paused. She replayed the moment again and again, the heat, the fear, the boy's lifeless body in her arms. Each time, she reached the same conclusion: she would do it again. When she reached home, her mother rushed to her, holding her tightly, checking every injury. Tears fell freely now, not just for the missed opportunity, but for the weight of the day. Later that evening, as the pain settled into her muscles, Aaliyah sat quietly in her room. Her dress was ruined, her papers burned, her plans destroyed, yet something inside her felt stronger than before. She did not know the boy's name, she did not know his family, and she did not know that powerful eyes were already searching for her. All she knew was that she had chosen courage over convenience, and though it had cost her dearly, that choice was about to open a door she never even knew existed. The next few days passed slowly for Aaliyah, as if time itself had lost interest in moving forward. Her body healed little by little, but her heart felt heavy. Every morning she woke up remembering that she should have been attending her new school by now, sitting in bright classrooms, starting a different life. Instead, she stayed home, helping her mother and trying not to think too much. News of the accident appeared briefly on local television and social media. A short clip showed the burning car and emergency vehicles. Reporters talked about a brave stranger who saved a child, but they did not show her face or mention her name. The story faded quickly, replaced by other news. At school, teachers praised her courage when they heard what happened. Some classmates called her a hero, others whispered that she was foolish for risking everything. Aaliyah listened but said little. Praise did not bring back the scholarship, and criticism did not change what she had done. One afternoon, she received an email from the scholarship office. Her hands trembled as she opened it, hoping for understanding, maybe even mercy. The message was polite but firm. Rules were rules, interviews could not be rescheduled, the opportunity was officially gone. Aaliyah closed the email slowly and sat in silence. The room felt smaller than before. She did not cry right away. Instead, she stared at the wall, letting the truth settle deep inside her. This was the price of her choice. Her mother noticed the change in her, the quiet moments, the long stares, the forced smiles. One evening, she sat beside Aaliyah and spoke gently, telling her that life sometimes tests people in unfair ways. She said that doing the right thing does not always bring instant rewards, but it always builds a strong soul. Those words stayed with Aaliyah. Even when doubt tried to return, she reminded herself that saving a life mattered more than any certificate or interview. Still, late at night, she wondered what her future would look like now. She applied to other scholarships, smaller ones, less promising. Some replied with rejections, others with silence. Each response felt like another door closing, yet she kept going, because giving up was not part of who she was. Meanwhile, across the city, the boy she had saved was slowly recovering. His father sat beside his hospital bed every day, watching the machines, listening to the doctors, and replaying the moment he almost lost his son. Gratitude and guilt mixed heavily in his chest. He demanded answers. Who saved my child? He asked again and again. He was told it was a young girl, brave and fearless, but no one knew her name. That was not enough for him. As a powerful and respected man, he was used to finding solutions, and this time was no different. He asked his assistants to investigate the accident, to talk to police, to search for witnesses. He wanted to look the hero in the eyes and say thank you. Back in her small home, Aaliyah remained unaware of the quiet search beginning around her. She focused on daily life, tutoring younger students, helping her mother, saving what little money she could. Her dream felt distant now, like something she once touched but could not hold. One evening, while washing dishes, she looked at her reflection in the dark window. She saw tired eyes, but also strength. She realized that even though she lost an opportunity, she had gained something no one could take away: her character. She did not know that her name was about to be spoken in places she had never imagined. She did not know that her sacrifice had reached the heart of someone with the power to change everything. For now, she simply lived with the consequences of her choice, believing that some things are worth losing everything for, and somewhere beyond her small world, fate was quietly preparing to return what she thought was gone forever. The hospital room was quiet except for the steady sound of machines. The boy lay asleep, his small chest rising and falling, bandages wrapped around his head and arms. Sitting beside him was his father, a man used to control, power, and influence, yet in this moment, he felt completely helpless. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw flames, twisted metal, and the terrifying thought of arriving too late. The doctors had told him his son survived because someone acted fast, someone fearless, someone who did not hesitate. That thought stayed with him, heavy and unshakable. He asked everyone the same question: nurses, doctors, police officers, even hospital security, who saved my son? Some replied with admiration, others with regret, saying they did not know her name, only that she was young and brave. That answer was never enough for him. As the days passed and his son's condition improved, his determination grew stronger. Gratitude alone was not enough. He needed to find her, to thank her properly, to understand what kind of person would risk her life for a stranger. He called in favors, contacted senior officers, reviewed reports, and demanded details from the accident scene. His assistants worked tirelessly, collecting witness statements, reviewing traffic cameras, and tracking every small clue. A blurry image from a street camera showed a girl near the burning car, pulling a small body away moments before the explosion. Her face was not clear, but her courage was unmistakable. He watched the footage again and again, his chest tightening every time. One witness mentioned that the girl was holding a folder, another said she kept checking the time, as if she was late for something important. That detail caught his attention immediately. Why would someone in such a hurry stop to save a life? The answer came slowly, piece by piece. The girl had been on her way to a scholarship interview, something that could have changed her entire future. She missed it because she chose to save his son. When he heard this, the weight of her sacrifice finally hit him. She did not just risk her life, she gave up her dream. He leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes, feeling a deep mix of gratitude, respect, and responsibility. He asked for the scholarship details, the school name, the selection process. As he listened, something unsettling began to form in his mind. The school sounded familiar, too familiar. Later that night, he checked his personal files, something he had kept private, away from public attention. He was not just a businessman, he was the owner of several educational institutions, including the very school that had offered the scholarship. The realization struck him hard. His son's life had been saved by a girl whose future had been denied by a system he controlled. The coincidence felt too heavy to ignore, almost like fate demanding correction. He sat alone in his office, city lights glowing outside the window, thinking deeply. He did not want publicity, he did not want a simple thank you speech, he wanted justice. He ordered his team to find her immediately, not for media, not for praise, but to give her what she truly deserved: an education, a future, a chance equal to the sacrifice she made. Meanwhile, Aaliyah remained unaware. She spent her days tutoring children and helping her mother, believing that the chapter of her lost scholarship was closed forever. She had no idea that her name was now written on files sitting on a powerful man's desk. The search was nearly complete, the truth was coming closer, and soon, two lives connected by fire and courage were about to meet again, changing everything once more. The call came on a quiet afternoon when Aaliyah was helping a neighbor's child with homework. Her phone buzzed with an unknown number, and she almost ignored it, thinking it was another rejection or a wrong call. Something made her answer. The voice on the other end was calm and professional, asking if she was the girl involved in the car accident a few weeks earlier. Her heart skipped, memories rushed back, the fire, the noise, the fear. She answered softly, saying yes. The caller asked if she could come in for a short meeting the next day, saying it was important and related to the incident. No details were given, only an address, an office building she had never heard of. That night, Aaliyah barely slept, her mind filled with questions. Had she done something wrong? Was there a legal issue, or was this just another interview that would lead nowhere? Her mother listened quietly as Aaliyah explained the call, then encouraged her to go, reminding her that truth never needs fear. The next day, Aaliyah wore her cleanest dress and took 2 buses across the city. The building she arrived at was tall and modern, glass shining under the sun. She felt small standing at the entrance, unsure if she belonged there. Inside, she was guided to a large office, where a man stood by the window. His back was turned, but his posture carried authority. When he turned around, Aaliyah felt a strange sense of familiarity, even though she had never seen him before. He asked her to sit and offered her water. His voice was gentle, not cold or demanding. He thanked her first, deeply and sincerely, for saving his son's life. Only then did Aaliyah realize who he was. Her hands trembled as the truth settled in. He spoke about that morning, how close he came to losing everything, how one brave stranger changed his world. Aaliyah listened quietly, unsure what to say. She told him she only did what anyone should do. Then he asked about the folder she had been carrying, about the interview she missed. Aaliyah hesitated, but answered honestly. She explained her dream, her preparation, and the email that ended it all. Her voice did not break, but her eyes revealed the pain she had learned to hide. The man leaned back, silent for a moment, then he told her something that made the room feel unreal. He said he owned the school that had offered her the scholarship. He said he had kept it private for years, letting the system run without his involvement, trusting it to be fair. Aaliyah felt dizzy. The connection was too shocking, too heavy to understand. She wondered if this was some kind of test, or a cruel coincidence. He continued, saying that when he discovered the truth, he felt responsible, not because she saved his son, but because the system failed to recognize her worth. He made it clear that this was not charity, and not a reward, it was justice. He explained that he had reviewed her academic record, her teacher recommendations, and her background. She had earned the scholarship long before the interview. The interview was only a formality. Aaliyah's breath caught, tears filled her eyes, but she tried to hold them back. The man told her that the school would be offering her full admission, complete financial support, and additional mentoring, starting immediately. For a moment, Aaliyah could not speak. The room felt silent, yet her heart was louder than ever. She finally whispered thank you, not knowing what else to say. As she left the building later that day, sunlight felt warmer, the city looked different, as if colors had returned. She walked slowly, letting the truth sink in. Her dream was no longer lost, it had only taken a longer road. She did not know how her life would unfold from here, but she knew one thing clearly: courage had led her to a door she never knew existed, and this time, it was wide open. The news spread quietly at first, not through headlines or cameras, but through changed actions and unexpected kindness. Aaliyah returned home that evening still feeling like she was walking inside a dream. She told her mother everything, from the phone call to the meeting, and when she finished, both of them sat in silence, holding hands, letting the truth settle between them. Her mother cried softly, not from sadness, but from relief. For the first time in years, the weight she carried for her daughter's future felt lighter. She hugged Aaliyah tightly and whispered that God never forgets the good hearts, even when the world does. Within days, official letters arrived, neatly printed, formal, and clear. Aaliyah was granted full admission, tuition covered, books provided, transportation arranged, and access to mentors who would guide her through her studies. It was more than she had ever imagined, and yet it did not feel like charity, it felt earned. What Aaliyah did not know was that changes were happening beyond her life too. The school owner, deeply affected by what he had learned, began reviewing the scholarship system closely. He discovered rigid rules, cold decisions, and processes that ignored real-life emergencies. The system had been fair on paper, but not in humanity. Meetings were called, policies were questioned, and changes were made. New guidelines were introduced to allow flexibility in exceptional circumstances. Interviews would no longer be the only deciding factor. Character, resilience, and real-life challenges would now matter too. Teachers were informed, administrators trained, and a new message was quietly passed through the institution. Education was not just about grades, it was about values. Aaliyah entered the school a week later, walking through the same gates she once dreamed about from afar. Students looked at her curiously, unaware of her story, unaware of the fire she had walked through to stand there. She wore her uniform proudly, not because it was new, but because it symbolized a future she had fought for. Some teachers knew, and their eyes held respect when they spoke to her. They did not treat her differently, but they watched her closely, recognizing strength when they saw it. Meanwhile, the boy she saved returned home, healthy and smiling. His laughter filled his father's house again, and every time the father heard it, he remembered the girl who made it possible. He chose not to reveal her identity publicly, believing some heroes deserved peace instead of fame. Instead, he invited Aaliyah and her mother to a small private dinner, no cameras, no speeches, just gratitude. He thanked her again, not as a powerful man, but as a father. Aaliyah listened quietly, her humility unchanged. As weeks passed, Aaliyah settled into her new routine, early mornings, long classes, late night studying. It was not easy, but it was exactly where she belonged. Whenever she felt tired or overwhelmed, she remembered the moment she chose courage over convenience, and it gave her strength. Whispers of her story eventually reached students. Some admired her, some questioned her, but Aaliyah stayed focused. She did not want to be known for one moment of bravery, she wanted to build a life of purpose. The greatest justice did not come from announcements or rewards, it came from balance being restored, a life saved, a future returned, and a system made better because one girl refused to walk away. Aaliyah understood now that some actions ripple far beyond the moment they are made. Her choice on that burning road had changed policies, lives, and hearts, including her own. And as she walked through the school halls each day, she carried no bitterness for what she lost, only gratitude for what she gained, and quiet pride in knowing that doing the right thing had rewritten her destiny. Time moved forward, but the memory of that burning morning never truly left Aaliyah. It lived quietly inside her, not as pain, but as a reminder of who she had become. As months passed, she grew into her new life, balancing studies, responsibilities, and dreams that once felt impossible. At school, Aaliyah was no longer just catching up, she was excelling. Her teachers noticed her discipline and hunger to learn. She stayed late in the library, asked thoughtful questions in class, and helped classmates who struggled. Education was no longer a distant hope, it was her daily reality. Her mother's life changed too. With Aaliyah's scholarship secured, the pressure eased. She worked fewer hours and smiled more often. Their small home felt warmer, filled with laughter and quiet confidence about the future. One afternoon, during a school assembly, Aaliyah sat among hundreds of students, listening as the principal spoke about values, courage, and responsibility. Without mentioning names, he told a story about a young person who chose humanity over personal gain. The room was silent. Many students felt inspired, not knowing the hero sat among them. Aaliyah felt her heart race, but she remained still. She did not need recognition, she already understood the value of her choice. Later that day, she received a letter from the school owner, a short note, handwritten, thanking her again and reminding her that her actions had changed more than one life. He encouraged her to never doubt the power of her decisions, even when the outcome is uncertain. The boy she saved sent her a drawing through his father. It showed two stick figures holding hands in front of a bright red heart. One was taller, one smaller, both were smiling. Aaliyah placed the drawing carefully inside her book, keeping it close. As graduation approached, Aaliyah began mentoring younger students from backgrounds similar to hers. She shared her story honestly, not as a fairy tale, but as a lesson. She told them that courage does not always bring instant rewards, but it always shapes who you become. Opportunities followed her naturally, internships, leadership roles, and recommendations, not because of the accident, but because of her consistency and character. People trusted her, believing in her ability to lead with integrity. On the anniversary of the accident, Aaliyah visited the street quietly. The scars on the road were gone, traffic flowed like any other day. She stood there for a moment, remembering how close everything had come to ending, then she walked away, grateful. Years later, as she stood on a stage receiving an academic award, Aaliyah looked into the crowd and saw her mother smiling proudly. She remembered the girl who once stood at a bus stop with a folder full of dreams and no guarantees. Her life was not perfect, but it was meaningful. She had learned that destiny is not about avoiding hardship, but about how you respond when it appears. The boy she saved would grow up knowing that his life mattered to a stranger. The school would continue educating students under a system shaped by compassion, and Aaliyah would move forward, carrying the quiet strength born from a single selfless act. Her story did not end with a miracle, it continued with purpose, proving that true heroism is not found in applause, but in the courage to choose others, even when the cost feels too high. Years passed quietly, not with sudden miracles, but with steady growth. Aaliyah moved forward step by step, carrying her past not as a burden, but as a guide. Every challenge she faced reminded her of that morning, when she learned that real strength appears when choices are hardest. After finishing school with honors, Aaliyah earned admission to a respected university. This time, there were no doubts, no fear of doors closing. She walked onto campus with confidence shaped by experience, knowing she belonged there. Her studies focused on social development and education, because deep inside, she wanted to fix the same broken systems that once failed her. During lectures, she listened closely, not just to learn, but to understand people. She questioned unfair rules, challenged rigid thinking, and spoke with honesty that came from lived experience. Professors noticed her perspective was different, grounded, real. Outside the classroom, Aaliyah volunteered with community programs, helping students who felt invisible. She saw herself in them, the fear, the hunger to succeed, the quiet belief that one opportunity could change everything. She did not promise easy paths, only effort and courage. Her mother watched all this with pride that words could not express. The girl she once worried about surviving was now leading others. Their home, once filled with uncertainty, now carried hope. One evening, Aaliyah received an invitation to speak at a small private event. It was hosted by educators and policymakers, people who made decisions that shaped futures. She almost declined, afraid her voice might not matter, but she remembered how silence once allowed injustice to pass unnoticed. At the event, she stood before the audience and shared her story, not the fire, not the rescue, but the moment after, the loss, the waiting, the uncertainty. She spoke about systems that forget humanity, and how small flexibility can save lives in ways numbers never will. The room was quiet, not from shock, but from understanding. Her words stayed with them, and slowly, changes began beyond one school, new policies, new considerations, new compassion. Aaliyah never claimed credit. She believed impact mattered more than recognition. One day, she met the boy again, now older, healthier, curious about the girl who once saved him. They spoke briefly, simply, two lives connected by a moment neither would forget, no heavy emotions, only gratitude. As Aaliyah walked away that day, she realized something powerful. Her story was never just about saving a life. It was about choosing humanity when it costs you something, and trusting that the world, slowly, will respond. She continued her journey, not chasing success, but purpose. Wherever she went, she carried a quiet reminder that real change begins when ordinary people make extraordinary choices. And long after the fire was forgotten, long after the scholarship became history, Aaliyah's life stood as proof that integrity shapes destiny more than luck ever could.